Hi, everybody. I have absolutely no idea why this camera quality is so terrible. But the good news is that we recently purchased a new laptop for me. So that's supposed to be in the mail. Well, it's supposed to be here either today or tomorrow. So fingers crossed that it'll get here sooner rather than later, which is why I held off on doing this video because number one, today I kind of look like Voldemort in that guy's head, Professor, whatever his name was, and or that I just got out of the shower, but this is actually officially a hair scarf. And so I'm just not sure that I'm ready for me to wear them yet. But I figured it was better than, baldy, which I normally am. So I just wanted to apologize for that distraction. Also, I have beautiful things in the background because my new office is done in a colonial style, which is very exciting to me. Not that I'm into interior design like at all, but I am pretty crafty, and so I'm pretty upset that I can't show off all my craftiness or the antiques that my mother-in-law gave me a long time ago or anything like that. So it's just a boring, average lecture today, but more a discussion from me to you to let you know about what's going to be happening. First and foremost, I'm getting a new computer, better quality videos. That's helpful. Second, there is a discussion board post based off of the article that I posted last week. And I would like it if you all had a part in that discussion. I did make it worth a few points, so it might be worth it to you to make sure that you do that. The third thing is that I am going to talk about a few things that are housekeeping and then a few things that are content oriented almost solely. So let's talk about housekeeping. The podcasts are something we're still trying to figure out. Jacob has been working with me, and a few of you have actually emailed me and said that you can't get a hold of Zoom. So I've asked Jacob if we could do Skype, if there's some other option that we can use. If you all know of an option, let's get on it and do it. And we'll experiment with the podcasts. In the event that the podcasts do not go off without a hitch, then we will in fact go back to the original plan B, the original plan B, which is blogging. But based on the discussion boards right now, not really too what's the word? I'm not too confident that you all are going to do those. And that bothers me because I would really rather you do them. So I want to make sure that you are successful for the rest of the semester. That does not mean I give you an A and we all go home. It means literally, and wow, my hands are dry. Look at that. But literally that we actually get you through by learning what you all need to learn. The good news is that this is a practical application class, so we were able to do stuff outside the classroom already. And the only thing I truly hate about staying at home and not being able to go anywhere other than like my sporadic trips to the dollar store or whatever that I don't make anymore, or my personal luncheons where I just sit and read or think to myself. I miss that kind of privacy. Although I just come down here and have it in my office. And my husband bought me a coffee warmer, so I can also drink warm coffee in a very, very cold basement, which is very nice. But aside from that, these videos force all of your professors to look at themselves when they are giving the video or giving the lecture. And the fact of the matter is that most of us have no idea what we look like. And there's good reason for that. It's not something I want to watch over and over and over again, although we should. It's a good teaching practice. It's very good pedagogy. And for all of you future professors out there, you might want to know this, that you might think you look cool as heck. You don't. None of us do. None of us look great when we're lecturing. And particularly when we can't move. I'm really not feeling like I could stand up and go in and out of the camera shot. That might drive you a little nuts. So this is what I'm limited to. And as not to stereotype my own people, but as an Italian, this is difficult. So we're going to give it our best. It's not like I haven't taught online before. I just get to complain about it now. Actually, some of you are probably very happy to be in your homes and be able to just do these things whenever you want on your own schedule. The only thing that you cannot do on your own schedule that you have to do on our schedule is going to be Thursdays at 4 p.m. Central Time. Now, I've been told to keep our classroom experiences that require real-time participation as close to the real time that we had when we were in the seated classroom. That's what I'm doing. We started at 4, we ended it at 5:15, and so we're going to start at 4. Now, for at least one of you, that's like 11 o'clock at night, and I am so sorry. But time zones being what they are, if I could move it up earlier in the day on Thursday, I would. I don't want to mess with people's work schedules, other classes, etc. But hang in there, Skylar. Hopefully, you'll be awake enough to join us. Might I recommend the hair scarf? Yeah, I'm just saying. The other good news is that you have no idea if I'm wearing shorts or pajama bottoms or jeans. I'm wearing jeans. That's the good news. The bad news is I have my big fluffy Steelers slippers on. But you too can be comfortable and participate in the podcast. What's going out publicly is going to be, I believe, video only. If that is correct, Jake, you can let us know, or you can correct me. And Jake, if you would like to, you can leave a comment at the bottom of this video here on YouTube, or you can actually go onto Blackboard and, where we have the discussion board, you can make whatever announcement you feel is important to make for Thursday. We're going to try to give this a shot. I'm going to start on Thursday. That's in 2 days. That's the 9th. Yes, that's the day your explication is due. Yes, by midnight on the 10th, which is Friday, I want you to have a discussion board post up. We are playing a little bit of catch up and at the same time adapting. And I know that we're all adapting. As I told somebody the other day, Jessica can tell you this. I thought I had a 4:30 appointment on Friday via Skype, and it turned out I had a 1:30 appointment on Friday via phone. And then I had a 4:30 Thursday via Skype, which I missed. It's just been bad. I need to be better about keeping track of my meetings. But hopefully, Jessica, you got my text message, and hopefully you're doing okay. And if you all need anything, please text me, and we'll set up a video conference or whatever we need to do. Okay, you're going to make it through the end of this semester. We have a month and 1 week left, so we need to do as much with it as we can. I think that's all the housekeeping I need to do, except the following. Your presentations are going to have to be either 1, not done at all, or 2, put up on video from the comfort of your own home. We don't really have many other choices than that. Now, personally, I like to see your presentations. They're so much better. It makes it easier for me to read your paper. It makes it easier for me to grade the paper based on what you say it's supposed to say. And that helps everybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the presentation worth those points, and you will be recording your presentation and putting it up on Blackboard. Or emailing it to me if you can't put it up on Blackboard, but hopefully we'll be able to put it up on Blackboard. I will see what we can do about that. Either way, it's recording time, people. You get to stare at yourself while you present. Have fun with that. Going back to your 115 days, I'm sure. All right. So for the rest of the semester, we're going to attempt to do podcasts. We're going to attempt to do blogs. And you guys are going to write a paper. You know what the topic is already. And you're going to record a presentation of that paper, which you can send to me anytime or put on Blackboard anytime before the end of the semester. So if you want to do your presentation and then get feedback from people first and then write your paper, you can do that, or vice versa. It's totally up to you. All right. That's it for the housekeeping, and that is less than 10 minutes. I'm pretty impressed with myself. So let's talk about the actual content that we were supposed to cover over the course of the last 2 weeks. Believe it or not, it's actually only 2 weeks of classroom stuff. So that's the good news. I think technically, it's actually, it's today. Today starts the second week that we've technically missed. Okay, so that's the good news. Thanks to COVID-19. So let me get started with three things we're going to talk about today. The first is going to be what is defining a new technology. The second is what's the difference between social media and traditional media and why do we make that difference? And finally, we're going to talk a little tiny bit about media and public opinion, although we're not going to get very far into that right now. The assignment I have you reading is actually about groupthink. And the question I asked you on the discussion board is, why would I make you read that? So I'm not going to give you the answer to that. Hopefully you'll be able to figure it out by the end of this. So what actually defines a new technology? It seems like maybe this question should be posed at the beginning of the class, except every time in history that something that changes our politics or our policy comes up, that is considered a new technology. So new technology may not be new to us right this minute, but it was new at a time. So it really impacted the politics of the time. And that's important to understand. So when newspapers started being sponsored specifically by, almost solely, by political entities and political biases and positions, that was new. And when more and more people learned to read, that was new as well. And so each one of those considered a new quote unquote technology. When we talk about it today, for the most part, what we're referring to is those things that have come up in the last 25 years. Being 45, almost 46, but being 45, that means everything since I was 20. Okay, first of all, a lot has happened since I was 20. And second of all, there was a lot of stuff between 1 and 20 that were actually pretty vital to our politics. For example, there was already television. There was already color television. So I guess that's not a new technology, but it did impact the 1960 debates, as we've talked about in the past. But if I was born in 74. Are you ready for all of the technology changes since 1974? So we're talking almost 50 years. I'm not quite there yet, but we're close to half a century now. So between 74 and 94, which would have been the first 20 years of my life, what did we have come up? We had VHS tapes, video recorders, beta recorders. We had mobile phones, which were in cars and were powered by cars and were used the car antenna. Very expensive and very large, by the way. But that was the only kind of mobile phone that we had. We still had corded phones. We still had rotary phones, but we got push button phones. We got cordless phones. We also got surround sound in our theaters, and some people had surround sound in their living rooms. It required quite the setup, might I say, and most of the time you were building yourself a theater. And nowadays we could just plug in a really good JB box and boom, we're good to go, right? But back then it was a real interesting experience. My Bose sound system in my car, I didn't request that, it just came with it. My Bose sound system in my car is better than most theaters. So it's kind of a little weird that kind of technology developed. But that was actually after 1994. So still prior to 1994, we did have this thing called the internet. We did not have the World Wide Web. There were no pictures. There was an entire language called ASCII, A-S-C, capital I, capital I. And I have no idea. Was it ASC2? Was it ASCII? I don't know, but we called it ASCII, ASCII, and it stood for something, I'm sure. And it was a way of drawing pictures using symbols. So like using at signs and little up and down lines, the dashes and the dots and the periods and it was bizarre. If I can look up something for you, I will. But it's just, I actually tried to write happy birthday. Actually, I tried to make a birthday cake online for my husband out of ASCII code, and I failed miserably. Well, I failed spectacularly, I should say. So what becomes a new technology then? Generally, like I said, last 25 years. So what have we gotten in the last 25 years? Because we had cable in the 80s. We had things like that became some things that became more accessible, more affordable, but there was still a class difference That was largely because the internet, which allowed you to have email and did start with the military, was only allowed to college students. So you had to have a college email address. And then that was true for Facebook later on in 2011. So a lot of things started with you. I should say with us, because you weren't born yet. But in 1990, in the early 1990s, we were the ones who were experimenting with dialing into mass computers, the idea of creating video games, which weren't video, they were just written text games. I know you guys are bored by tabletop. Imagine typing that crap into a black screen with either green or amber writing on it. Woohoo! Very exciting stuff. Sometimes there were capital letters used. Good times. So our way of even talking about it, in other words, the grammar that we used was completely different because we weren't even using the same language. It's crazy. Oh, wait, you guys know what that's like, right? We have new languages. We have new languages on Snapchat I don't understand. I have no idea, never figured out what a Vine was, and I don't know what TikTok is. And I, quite frankly, don't care, but that's okay because younger generations should develop new ideas based on their generation's values and their generational ideas and the innovation that comes from new young minds that have not been jaded by things like pandemics, of which I've survived, 5 now. I just think that we, as we get older, we become more experienced and those new technologies aren't so new. But in the moment for politics, which we know is a moment-to-moment experience, it does change it. So the new technology, let's say last 25 years, we're looking at things like the accessibility to mobile phones, which of course have become satellite phones or cyber phones, digital phones, Wi-Fi. These are all new. The ability to Google a picture of an elephant in Africa right this moment so I can know what he looks like or she and what he or she is doing. And then magically just pulling them up on my miniature television screen, which is right here. Ooh. I do feel kind of like I'm in like 2001 Space Odyssey or something. It's just the world is a really bizarre place that we live in right now. And not because of bad things, but because of good things. My mother uses emoticons. She has, what are those called when you have your own emoji? She has her own emoji it was called Bitstrip for a while. Bitmoji, I think, is the name of it. So I had to create one for myself because that was awkward. And you know what? We look exactly the same. So apparently I look like a 75-year-old woman and she looks like a 46-year-old woman. Actually, we do pretty much look the same in a lot of ways, depending on the angle. So that's a new technology. The idea of being able to market to one set group. Remember how I used to joke that when I was single, and this is not a joke, this is true. I did put makeup on today and I can't see any of it. I don't know why I bothered. I used to get onto Facebook and it would say, are you overweight, over 30, and a diabetic and looking to meet someone? Blah, blah, blah. It was like, how the hell did you get that? Well, of course, it's based on the internet websites that you visit. We've got fancy schmancy algorithms now that used to only be accessible to the CIA, I think. And now we can just go and search anything, anywhere, however we want. But that opens ourselves up to major problems, as we all know. The security breaches, Edward Snowden, and that got us into what was termed as the Fifth Estate. I'm not sure I'm ready to accept a fifth estate. And again, just as a reminder, the first 3 estates are the 3 branches of government. The 4th estate is considered the press, which is the people's communication with the government, the check on the government, the ability to research and know what is going on in the government and explaining that to the citizenry, to the polity. And unfortunately, our watchdog press has needed apparently a watchdog. So that's what they're referring to as the Fifth Estate. The idea of individual iNews, iCameras, iPhones, everything. If you think about that, we've become so much more of not the me generation, which was I believe the Gen Xers were called the me generation for a long time, but now we've gotten into the I generation, meaning not just about me, but done individually. I don't need anybody else. We pretend like we don't need a community in order to get a message out or to do what we want to do, except we forget that if you don't have an audience, there's really no point in doing it. Just saying. So, new technology is defined by, yes, a time period, last 25 years or so. It's also defined by how much change and how much impact it has on the polity or on citizens. And it's also defined by how much of an impact we think it has on politics or policy. Excuse me. So much better. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was social media versus traditional medias. And this is sort of a similar question. But there is a huge difference between our traditional medias and social media in the way that we study it, in the messages that we construct for it, and in the messages that we translate for others. The analysis of social media is very different, partially because it's pushed us more into marketing than into messaging. That's part of the problem or part of the thing. Or some people, and I look at it this way, some people look at it as we have required that marketing skills be as good as, if not better than, messaging skills. So when you go look for a job, it says, make sure that you have one of these top two, or both is even better, business / marketing / accounting / self-marketing, all that stuff, and communication. Why? Is that just because we talk better? No, just so we know, you don't talk better. None of us talk better. But what we do, what we try to do, is to understand messaging better. That is to say, creating a message and responding to messages better than most. And so while my mother will tell you, I think I'm such a good talker, no, I don't think I'm a great talker. I often forget words. I do not enunciate appropriately. I misspeak a lot and I say words wrong a lot, not as much as our presidents, but I say them wrong a lot. I'm not as nervous as they are, I guess, but I also mispronounce words just for the heck of it sometimes, or slip into an accent. The point is that we don't necessarily talk good, but supposedly we make the best messages. So we are able to understand all the means of persuasion in a situation, and in politics that is definitely required. So social media puts it on the individual. So if I'm out here ranting and I'm not Alex Jones and I didn't get a bunch of crazy people to follow me, or I'm not crazy enough for people to follow me, or I'm not entertaining enough, or I'm not, I shouldn't say crazy, I should say saying radical things. That's probably a better way of putting that. They're not necessarily crazy people out there, but there's definitely some pretty radical ideas. At least they're radical to me. Maybe they're not radical to anybody else, maybe just me, but I live in an iNews world. So, I think that social media has both made it easier for us to understand messages and easier to reach our representatives, and at the same time, nearly impossible to do both. And you can't scream louder on the internet unless you pay for it. And so now we're back down to a class problem. This is an economic problem. People who can afford high speed, people who have access to high speed, people who have money to advertise, and so on. So we're right back to money versus traditional media, where we were still talking about money. How much it costs to do a Super Bowl ad versus how much it costs to do a regular television ad versus a radio ad versus what can be afforded, which, is based on how much you can raise, and so on and so forth. So then the question becomes, what does media do to public opinion? Does media affect public opinion? The answer to that question is going to be what we explore on Thursday in our podcast. So the question we're going to explore is, what is the link or the relationship between media and public opinion, and why is that important? Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. Aside from that, stay healthy, be well, wash your hands. Soap is a natural antibacterial. It's going to be okay. But do clean often. I'm talking about like your space in your room. I assume you have good hygiene. Most of you did. All of you did, actually. So keep doing those things that you do, but stay out of large groups. In fact, limit yourself to like 3 or 4. How's that? Okay, I'm going to try to catch you on Thursday. Meanwhile, be careful, wash your hands. I'll talk to you soon.